Hey guys, Xyz here. How are you doing today? So we're taking away from Cleforts, which we were doing last week, but now we're going to do Nekroz or Nekloth. I don't really care. They're both the same, really. And I got a few replays. Now with Nekroz, they're really interesting. Of course, they have been announced for a hell of a long time, and everyone's expecting them. People are hoarding those Manjus and Senjus and getting hold of Herald of the Archetype because the deck is incredibly strong. I feel like it's the ritual. If you've noticed the trend, Shadows were the fusion deck, Burning Abyss were the Xyz deck, and obviously kind of the synchro deck with Virgil. Cleforts were the Pendulum deck, and this is going to be that ritual deck. And so what they're planning is kind of have like a four-way kind of brawl, melee thing, you know, King of the Ring kind of thing, and that's really cool. Having 4 different diverse decks in the meta is probably a really good idea. However, I've got a few observations. One, Nekroz is really hard to learn. Okay, I haven't mastered it. I've been playing this deck for like a day straight, and I've invested about 4 or 5 hours into it, and I've discussed it with friends, and I'm still finding the deck very difficult to understand because the deck just really has a lot of different decision trees. There's a lot of different things that you can do with this deck, and that's one thing. That's what makes it a good deck, is because the skillful players, the competitive players who invest the time and effort into this game will see results with this deck. And it's got a lot of really interesting plays to do, like Bionic bouncing 2 back is really fantastic. Yeah, so the deck is really, really strong, but you need to invest time into mastering it. And here's another thing. 3 of my replays that I want to show you today are heroes. And of course, I feel like Shadows are going to be phased out because Wendigo, which is coming out in the next set, is a god-awful fusion. And as we know in the previous trends, Konami phases out an archetype by releasing really shitty support about 2 or 3 sets in. So you'll start to see the deck declining because people jump off the bandwagon and people realize that they're not going to get any better. So they get rid of it and they go for something else. So they move their stuff well before it's too late. Now, with Shadows gone, you're going to have heroes instead, and they will replace that fusion mechanic that the deck, that the game needs. Not needs, but is kind of going for, So as I said before, we've got the rituals for the Nekroz, we've got the Xyz for the Burning Abyss, we've got the fusions for the heroes now, and then we'll have the Pendulums for Cleforts. So we'll have a really nice diverse meta where new players can understand everything, and old players will kind of grasp stuff. So that's really fantastic. But with heroes, they really do trump Nekroz. If heroes go first and they know they're playing against Nekroz, then they will make Darklaw. And Darklaw for them doesn't cost them anything because they get a card back with Shadow Mist. So that card is a really strong card. I'm playing against Invernoid at the moment, and it's okay. But against this deck, it doesn't really do much because Trishula is such a bitch of a card. And that's another observation. The idea is that you make Trishula, and that's great, but it's kind of a strong card, and it kind of fucks over loads of different decks at once. So if you're looking for an out against your worst matchup, Trishula and Bionic seems to be the best outs. My final observation is going to be that Valkyris is probably one of the most important cards in the deck, and for the sole reason that, one, it provides draw power, but the main reason is that in the mirror match, it's incredibly strong. It's unbelievably strong. The fact that you have 3 different times that you can negate the battle phase, because the minute that the one person uses Trishula, because Trishula doesn't target, you actually end up with this kind of weird battle where you need to trade resources in the mirror match, and you need to hold your Valkyries off for defending their attacks, and then you need to wait until they've committed too many resources and make sure they've used up their Trishula with like you use a Veiler on it or you use something, and you end up dropping your own Trishula and then just destroying their field and then stopping them from doing anything. So you ideally want to be getting rid of their Valkyries if you can help it. In this case, Trishula and Bionic just go in really hard, and I completely dismantled his setup with Book of Eclipse. Book of Eclipse is a really decent card for this deck because it lets you completely stop OTKs, because Nekroz has so much commitment of its archetype and all of its cards. They fill up so many cards in the main deck that you will be forced into running no traps at all. So running an OTK stopper, like Valkyries is kind of implied, but also running Book of Eclipse can actually help you by negating the OTKs, And also flipping down your Senjus and Manjus so that during your end phase, so that when you do your draw phase, main phase, you flip them back up and you get to add some extra cards. So your opponent gets to draw cards and you get to add cards. So you actually get to do a really good beneficial thing. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is how the first turn plays out really weirdly, because you generally want to Kaleido Mirror after you've searched for using Sanju or Manju to get yourself Unicorn, and then use Kaleido Mirror to send Arclight to the graveyard from your extra deck, and then you summon this Unicorn, and then you use Unicorn to kind of protect yourself against Darklaw. And because of Arclight, you get to add a card to your hand. So you end your turn with a really nice 4 or 5 cards in hand. You've got yourself a protection on the field to protect yourself from Darklaw. And then you've got Valkyries in your hand, ideally, to protect yourself from getting attacked by Darklaw. So if he makes the Darklaw with the intention of killing it, then you can negate it by using Valkyrie's effect, and then you can drop Trishula and completely dominate the field. So you use Trishula, dominate everything else that's on his field, and on hand and graveyard, blah blah blah, you know. And that would have really helped me in this situation. So he decided to ram his own card in. I'm not quite sure. I was expecting a Bubble Man, but he didn't actually drop it. So I was like, okay, whatever. At this point, I basically ran out of steam. And there's another problem with the deck, is like, it's not Dragon Rulers in the sense that the deck basically plays itself, where you can make misplay after misplay and Dragon Rulers can still win. With this deck, you really do have to think. And I made multiple misplays, but I had to deal with Darklaw, and I should have summoned my Clausulus here without flipping the fucking card down, so that I could have made its attack 0 and then attacked over it. That would have been the best play, but of course, Darklaw also hits me in another way, where whenever I add a card to my hand, once per turn, Darklaw can send a random card from my hand to the graveyard or banish it or something. So it's not only the Macrocosmos, it's also the other problems that come with the adding cards to the hand. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you really enjoyed watching these replays. I hope I've given you some helpful insight. And I would say, if I could take anything from this, is that you guys, if you don't know how Nekroz works, get on DevPro, get on Dueling Network, watch some duels, and find out how the deck works, because it's going to be relevant, it's going to be strong, and I know that when it comes to TCG, you're going to have to face it at least once in your tournament, any tournament you go to, any YCS or anything. So thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, the TCG Lover is out.